Shabbat Shalom, family. Shabbat Shalom, Wes Smith from House of Restoration, where we are bringing light to the darkness. So where we bring light to the darkness. Also joined to Remnant House. Home of the strong and courageous, and just coming to you today, as you saw the title. The title is called "Do All Things Without Murmuring and Disputing." So this is gonna be a part one and a part two. This week we're gonna talk about murmuring a little bit, and the word murmur means a half suppressed or muttered complaint, meaning grumbling. And then let's look at the word complaint real quick, right before we get into scripture. Complaint, a statement that you are unhappy or not satisfied with something, right? And so we seen that in times past that even with us, and so the reason I'm bringing you this message is because with me, for instance, for the last, I want to say, couple of weeks, I felt like that I've been being taken advantage of by certain situations. I feel like that I've been treated wrong, but I'm gonna tell you where I made my first mistake at. My first mistake was I began to feel used, and then I began to feel taken advantage of, and then what I began to do was I began to murmur and I began to complain, and so these complaints ended up turning into causing a grudge within me, and so it was making it hard for me to sleep. I was losing my peace, essentially. And so I made the grave error of, and I'm gonna tell you like this before we go into scripture, you always make the grave error when you turn to man and not Yah. We should always go to Yah whenever we have some form of a dispute, some form of you feel like you're being treated wrong. You should go to Yah. Do not go to man, especially if it's a man that is not after Yah's own heart, right? Because what they will do, they'll essentially begin to tell you about what they feel and how this, and give you their opinion. But we want always to be directed by Yah. So look what Philippians chapter 2, verse 14 and 15 say. It says, "Do all things without murmuring and disputings, that ye may be blameless and harmless, the sons of Yahuwah," listen to this, "without rebuke in the midst of a crooked and perverse nation, among whom ye shine as lights in the world." Look at that. Among whom as ye shine as lights in the world. So we have to follow Paul's example here. And then we have to look at what the Master Yahusha said. What did he say? All right. So if you go to, when you get in those situations where you feel the way that I felt, or many of you might feel that way sometimes when you're on your jobs, or whether you're at home, but it might be some authority figure over you that's telling you have to do something. You don't feel like what you're being, the way that you're being treated is right. But hey, a lot of times you are not to even mumble against them, because whoever is in authority over you, that's who Yah placed over you. I don't care whether it's at work. I don't care whether it's in the gathering of the ecclesia. I don't care if it's at home, in your home environment. Wherever it may be, that's who Yah places authority over you. So this is what we are supposed to do. Look what Yahushua say in Matthew chapter 5. Matthew chapter 5, verses 44 through 45. He said, "But I say unto you, love your enemies, and bless them that curse you, and do good to them that hate you, and pray for them which despitefully use you and persecute you." Listen to that again. "But I say unto you, love your enemies, bless them that curse you, do good to them that hate you, and pray for them which despitefully use and persecute you." Now look what he's saying in verse 45. "That ye may be children of your Father which is in heaven. For he makes his sun to rise on the evil and on the good, and sends rain on the just and on the unjust." I'm going to go ahead and go to verse 46. "For if ye love them which love you, what reward have ye? Do not even the publicans the same?" So in other words, we're not only, just because it's somebody that we love, or whatever the case it is, we should be going to Yah when we are feeling like we're being abused, or being used, or being misled, or whatever the case is, because Just because you feel a certain way don't mean that the situation is gonna change. And a lot of times we end up complaining more and more, and then it just makes the situation worse. Why? Because now you're starting to get into your feelings. And remember what I said last week: emotions cause commotion. And so when we start getting our feelings, we'll start acting out of character. And what I mean by that is acting out of the character of Yah. We're supposed to walk as Yah. And so what a lot of times I try to be transparent when it comes to ministry. I want people to recognize that even I have faults. And so a lot of times I have to ask y'all to reveal to me my secret faults. And guess what? He will chasten those whom he loves. And he'll rebuke you too. And so when you start doing things, and I'm gonna tell you like this, it don't take your leader of the ecclesia that's over you to come in and give you a sharp rebuke. If you truly love Yah with all your heart, then do the Ruach HaKodesh. The Ruach HaKodesh, remember we were talking a couple weeks ago. The Ruach HaKodesh don't have you doing all that jumping around and stammering and just throwing up and spitting up and doing all that stuff. The Ruach HaKodesh deals with you through your conscience. It deals with you through your moral acts, the way that you know that you're supposed to walk according to his statutes, his laws, and his ways. So if we're walking according to Torah, if we're walking according to his ways, then we begin to feel a certain way when we are not in acting in the nature of Yah. And so when we're not acting in the nature of Yah, that's because we're not showing kindness, for instance. If we're doing anything other than being kind, showing love, we begin to carry the works of the flesh when it's anything opposite of that. And so when you begin to grudge, that's a work of the flesh. It might not be on there as the word grudge, but murmuring is a work of the flesh. And so when you allow yourself to be worked like that, and you allow those things to get to you, then you begin to express it more and more. And that's something that we have to be careful of. We don't want to express it like that. We want to express love. We want to express kindness, and we want especially those that might not be of the ecclesia that is causing us to feel that way. We want eventually to win them to the kingdom. Remember, it ain't about us. And so a lot of times self is always in there, and we have to remove self from the situation because you don't know who watching you. You never know who watching you, and so you have to be careful with those things. Let's go to First Peter right quick. The apostle, First Peter chapter 4, verse 9. Look what he say. He says, use hospitality one to another without grudging. You hear that? And in other words, without murmuring, without having any type of hard or bad feelings toward one another. And so let's use that in the sense of you need to use hospitality when you're at work. You need to carry that nature of Yah with you wherever you go. And so we should show hospitality. I know they love to say that Southern folk always are hospitable, but you have to carry that hospitality of kindness everywhere with you. That hospitality of love, being able to help one another. And that even may be somebody that's not walking in the ecclesia, somebody that's not of the same fellowship that you are. We have to remember a lot of times, and we talked about the spirit of deception, how it works. He'll use that and help and cause us to use. And remember, we're gonna talk about disputing, and then we're gonna talk about the tongue too, because he calls us to start talking, and as we talk, we allow ourselves to begin to go into it's a form of where your complaining just turns into downright strife, right? And so you begin to feel a certain way towards people, and you begin to hold a grudge against them. And when you hold a grudge against them, well, guess what? You're gonna try to start doing what? You're gonna try to start getting vengeance or revenge for what's being done to you. So you'll start doing little odd end things, might be little small things, but guess what? Y'all see those things. He recognized those things. And so we have to be careful that we're not allowing ourselves to be carried in that fashion. Why is that? It's because when we allow ourselves to be carried in that fashion, now how are we going to be those children of the light, as he talked about in Philippians. We're not being the children of light. We're acting like children of darkness, and we're not supposed to be of the world no more, but of Yah. And so we have to recognize that when we find ourselves in that having that type of character coming on us, we don't want the works of the flesh to work within us. We want the love of Yah, the love of Mashiach to work in and through us. I mean, we want it to be when we walk with Him. We want to hear well done. You don't want to ever get to the point where you're gonna get before y'all and He say, "Depart from me, you work of iniquity." Those are the worst words to hear, and it bothers me so bad, So a lot of times I'm on myself. I'm attacking myself, and what I mean by attacking myself is I constantly examine myself to make sure that I'm not at fault before y'all. I don't want to be found with fault or sin in me, right? Don't get me wrong. I know that yes, I still have sin. Remember what Paul said: when I would seek to do good, evil is present with me, right? And so yes, our nature, that first nature, it always trying to rise up, and so we have to be on guard that nature, that sin nature, isn't rising up in us. Because remember, a little leaven does what? Leaven the whole lump, or it messes up the whole lump. And so you have to be careful with that, because we find ourselves oftentimes trying to correct things ourselves instead of just going to Yah. The first thing we should do whenever we find ourselves in a bad place like that, and we see ourselves getting like that, is to seek Yah, And so that's why I'm doing this message, because this is part of and I try to be as transparent with y'all as I can, because so what if I'm a leader? I have my little faults. Y'all remember what happened with Moshe when he got mad and hit the rock because the people kept murmuring against him, and y'all told him to speak to the rock, and he hit the rock instead. So I mean, even leaders at times have their little burnouts. And so that's why, even as leaders, you have to have strong people behind you that's willing to pray for you. And so a lot of times I go to those that I know, I call on those. And like I said, I made a mistake earlier in the message. I said I made a mistake, and I called man and vented to man instead of going to Yah and releasing my burden to Him. See, the burden got heavier when man interfered. The burden got heavier because now all he did was spread his emotions over to mine, and now it just made me even more furious. And so therefore, that's why we have to be on guard with things like that, because now the deception of the enemy is crept in. And what does he come to do? Steal, kill, and destroy. Let's look at 1 Corinthians chapter 10. 1 Corinthians chapter 10, verse 10. Look what Paul says. Neither murmur ye, as some of them also murmur, and were destroyed of the destroyer. Do you see that? Neither murmur ye, as some of them also murmur, and were destroyed of the destroyer. Look at that. Now we have to really pay attention to that. What was Paul talking about? And don't be destroyed of the destroyer. So let's look at it real quick. All right, because if you go back, if you reference that and go back to, we're gonna go to Exodus first. Exodus chapter 16, verses 1 through 4. And they took their journey from Elim, and all the assembly of the children of Yasharel came into the wilderness of Sin, which is between Elim and Sinai, on the 15th day of the second month after their departing out of the land of Mitzrayim, or Egypt. And the whole assembly of the children of Yasharel, listen to this, murmured against Moshe and Aaron in the wilderness. And a lot of times that's what ends up happening. We end up murmuring against our leader, whoever it is that's in authority over us, and not realizing that we're really coming against Yah, because that's who has been placed over us. So what we need to be doing, instead of murmuring against them, is we need to be strengthening them. How do we do that? Because they might not be of Yah. you pray for him, right? He said the king's heart is in his hand. Then he calls when Daniel was thrown in the lions, then the king fasted for Daniel and said the Elohim that you call on continually will save you. Daniel didn't murmur when he went in there, right? Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, they just walked on into the flame. They didn't murmur. They went through it. They went through it. And so a lot of times when the situation arises, we have to go through it. But look what they say in verse 3. And the children of Yasharel said unto them, would to Elohim. Now listen to this. This is where they overextended, because this is what I'm telling you. You ain't just blaming your leader, you're blaming Yah as well. Look what they say. And the children of Yasharel said unto them, would to Elohim we had died by the hand of Yahuwah in the land of Mitzrayim, when we sat by the flesh pots, and when we did eat bread to the full. For ye have brought us forth into this wilderness to kill this whole assembly with hunger. And all they had to do was pray, and he would have fed them. I mean, when they didn't even know that he was listening, they sent them up. They sent a deliverer to them, which was Moshe. They didn't even know that Yahuwah was listening and heard their cries, and how Egypt was attacking, just being wicked to them. He heard their cries, right? But listen to the mindset, or the slave mindset, or the slave mentality that they have is they'd rather be back in Egypt, because they felt like what they had there was better. Why? Because what they were going through at that moment was a struggle. And I'm going to tell you like this. A lot of times, the things that you ain't going to want to do is always going to be a struggle. And the only way that you're going to be able to grow and get stronger is go through it. Huh? He said that I'll be with you. I'll not leave you, deny you, nor forsake you. I'll be with you even unto the ends of the world. And yet, we find ourselves as believers and followers on the wayside. On the wayside, sitting up there murmuring and complaining with those that are of the world. Why? Because a lot of times what happens is when you're around negative people, we should be the ones that change the atmosphere. No matter where we're at, we should be the ones to change the atmosphere. You shouldn't allow the atmosphere to change you. I don't care how negative. You could be the 1% in there that is positive. You shouldn't allow, because guess what? I don't care if you flick a match in the dark. Guess what? You might not be able to see the whole room, but it's gonna be bright enough so if somebody's on the other side of the room in the darkness, I don't care how far they is, they gonna see that little glimmer of light. And that's what you should be. You should be that little glimmer of light in the midst of darkness. Being a light. This is what House of Restoration is about. It's about being a light in the middle of darkness. Being a light in the middle of the darkness, because what we have found is that there's so much darkness within the ecclesia, because we claim it, and we're not examining ourselves. We're not checking into this thing. We get up there and we're hearing messages, especially in the church, preached and teached just off of topics, just off of random topics, just to get a crowd, just to get a little money in the offering and the tithes, instead of some true, heartfelt, what you going through, what's actually y'all dealing with you on. And listen, most of my messages is always about something that I'm going through, but it also relate to stuff that you going through. And so therefore we have to be able to understand that when we going through these things, don't allow that mindset from old, because see that old mindset trying to come back. Yahuwah done showed them that he gonna deliver them. Right? Remember back in I think it's Exodus 16? Exodus 14, where Moshe said, let's just go there. Let's just go there. Yeah, okay. Real quick, Exodus chapter 14, and I'm gonna read verses 11 through 14. Now look at this. And they said unto Moshe, because there were no graves in Mitzrayim, have you taken us away to die in the wilderness? Wherefore have you dealt thus with us to carry us forth out of Mitzrayim? Is not this the word that we did tell you in Mitzrayim, saying, let us alone? Listen to their mindset, that we may serve the Mitzrayim. We want to stay and serve our wicked taskmasters. For it had been better for us to serve the Egyptians than that we should die in the wilderness. But listen to what Moshe said, and this is what a positive leader gonna do. Even when they feel like they don't have nobody backing them, they don't feel like this is what a positive leader gonna do. And this is being a light in the midst of the darkness. Look what he said. And Moshe said unto the people, fear ye not, stand still. Listen to that, stand still. And sometimes that's what we have to do. We have to stand still. Why? So we could see, look what he said. So you can see the salvation of Yahuwah, which he will show to you today. Listen to this. For the Mitzrayim, or the Egyptians, whom ye have seen today, ye shall see them again no more forever. Yahuwah shall fight for you. Ye shall hold your peace. See that? So even when that mindset, but see, remember what Paul said. Don't murmur. Because remember those that murmur, that were destroyed by the destroyer. Look at another one. Numbers chapter 14, verses 1 through 5. Now, this is around time when they went to spy out the land. They came back. The spies were telling about the goodness of the land. You had the certain one telling about the goodness. Then you had them other 10 that gave a bad report. They gave a bad report, and it caused all the people's hearts to fail. Look at chapter 14 and Numbers, verses 1 through 5. And all the assembly lifted up their voice and cried, and the people wept that night. And all the children of Yasharel, listen to this, murmured against Moshe and against Aaron, and the whole assembly said unto them, would to Elohim, here we go again. So like I said, as soon as we begin to start complaining against our leaders, we're really, that attack is really on Yah. So look at it. And he said, would to Elohim that we had died in the land of Mitzrayim, or would to Elohim we had died in the wilderness. Now, they're about to go into the land flowing milk, and they could have been there. They could have been there that day. They could have been there that day. And just because 10 people gave a bad report, the rest of the people just fell apart. So look with this. And wherefore, verse 3, and wherefore has Yahuwah brought us into this land to fall by the sword, that our women and children should be prey. Now listen. He already set it up so that all the Israelites, all the children of Yasharel could go into this land. Everything was already set up. But every time, listen, Yahuwah always it's always stuff set up for us. But the moment that we murmur and complain, guess what? We hinder that. We hinder what can be already established, because what we're doing is we're taking the chisel, we're steadily hitting that rock, and we're destroying the foundation that has already been created for us through Yahusha. We're destroying it. And so what we're beginning to do is we're beginning to destroy. And so what Yah says is you got to stop the complaining. You got to get away from the murmuring, because every time you do it, I don't care if it's against your best friend, I don't care if it's against your mama, your daddy, your sister, your uncle, your brother. When you start complaining, it does something in here to the heart. And remember what he wants. He needs a pure heart, right? Because unless your heart is pure, you can't truly what? See the face of Yah. Think about that. Only the pure in heart shall see Yah. I want to stop and think about that. Remember what he said in the Beatitude. Look at this. Verse 4. And they said one to another, let us make a captain and let us return into Mitzrayim. Now I want to show you something. Again, look at here. Then Moshe and Aaron fell on their faces before all the assembly of the multitude of the children of Yasharel. And they begin to pray to Yahusha. They begin to pray to Yahuwah. And what ended up happening was Yahusha, the son of Nun, and Caleb Yefuneh, the son of Yefuneh, they ripped their clothes. And now these were the only two that Yah said they would not be destroyed. Everybody else, Now guess what? Now they got to walk around in circles and circles and circles and circles. But now y'all gonna allow that generation to get in. But it was just their passage was just hindered. That foundation that had been established was destroyed. It was destroyed because of that old mindset. And so once we have been given that new man and we begin to walk in the spirit, then guess what? Don't allow the old man to come back. You need to stuff him back down because he surely will try to rise back up. And the old man is in acquaintance with Hasatan. And the reason I say that is because you were born in sin, shaped in iniquity. So you was already when you came into this world, you already knew how to lie. When you came into this world, you already knew how to cheat. Ain't that funny how sin nature work? We already know how to do the things that are not right. And unless we're taught how to do the right thing, guess what? People that are raised to do evil things think that it's right to do. Huh? And so when you hear people that's always murmuring and complaining and this and that, they think it's just a natural thing. And so you have to be the one to shut it down. You have to be the one to shut it down. Like I said, don't go to man, go to Yah. Look what it say in verse 37. We talk about that destroyer that Paul was talking about back in Corinthians 10 and 10. Now look what it said right here in verse 37. Even those men that did bring up the evil report upon the land died by the plague before Yahuwah. Verse 38. But Yahusha the son of Nun and Caleb the son of Jephunneh, which were other men that went to search the land, lived still. Right? So look at that. They still live, but the other ones, all of them died. All the 10 that gave that bad report, they died because they caused the people to err from Yah and not trusting Yah. And so that's what I'm trying to tell you. You have to be careful and do not go to man when you start having certain things going on, because they will only lead you astray. Put your trust not in man. Put all your trust in Yahuwah Eloheinu. I mean, you have to. Let's look at another one. Numbers 21. Numbers 21, verses 4 through 9. Let's look at another one. And they journeyed from Mount Hor by the way of the Red Sea to compass the land of Edom, and the soul of the people was much discouraged. Listen to that, must be much discouraged because of the way. And his people spoke against Elohim, listen to that, and against Moshe. So now they done got so bold, they ain't just speaking against Moshe and Aaron off rip. They starting off straight up off of y'all on Yahuwah. Wherefore have you brought us up out of Mizraim? Here we go again. This is the same old song with them. And they keep singing the same old song. Where have you brought us out of the land of Mizraim to die in the wilderness? For there is no bread, neither is there any water, and our soul loathes this light bread. They talking about the manna that he was feeding them from heaven. They complaining about what Yah is feeding them from heaven. Look at that. And Yahuwah sent, listen to this, fiery serpents among the people, and they bit the people, and much of the people of Yasharel died. Now, let's look at this. Therefore the people came to Moshe and said, we have sinned, for we have spoken against Yahuwah and against you. Pray unto El. Now they need him to pray for him. So, and listen, Moshe didn't hold no grudge. He prayed for him. Look what it said. Pray unto El Yahuwah that he take away the serpents from us. And Moshe prayed for the people. And Yahuwah said unto Moshe, make you a fiery serpent and set it upon a pole, and it shall come to pass that everyone that is bitten, when he looks upon it, shall live. Now listen to this. Listen to this. And Moshe made a serpent of brass and put it upon a pole, and it came to pass that if a serpent had bitten any man, when he beheld the serpent of brass, he lived. Now, what's so important about that? Because instead of complaining while you're going through your circumstance, if you look your circumstance in the face, and that's what they ended up having to do. So when he put that snake on the pole, right? After they were bitten, they had to go look the same type of serpent that had just bit them, they had to go look at it. And so a lot of times you got to look at that problem. You have to look at that situation. You have to look at what before you so you can go through it instead of keep trying to go around it or trying to figure out a way to attack back. You have to look at it so that you can go through it, get and be healed. Listen, be healed of that envy, that strife, that grudge, whatever it is that person you feel like is attacking you is doing, because you don't want to harness, you don't want to harbor those feelings. You don't want to harbor those feelings. Let's look at something else real quick. Because what did Yahusha say to us in order to be healed? He said, and St. John chapter 3, St. John chapter 3, verse 14, look what he say. And as Moshe lifted up the serpent in the wilderness, even so must the son of Adam be lifted up. Verse 15, that whosoever believes in him should not perish but have eternal life. And so this is what I'm trying to say to you. When you believe on Yahushua, when you live according to him and you want that eternal life, then this is what we got to do. We have to follow certain things. Because just like he said, do all things without murmuring and disputings. Look at what 1 Thessalonians chapter 5, verses 17 and 18 say. It says, pray without ceasing. And everything, listen to this, and everything give thanks. So when you're going through that trial, because a lot of times when your boss is doing stuff, or your friend or your mama or your dad or whoever it is that may be using you or taking advantage of you, or whatever the case is you're going through something so that you can grow. So you have to go so you can grow. You have to go so you can grow. And so what Yahuwah was trying to do with the children of Yisrael was just help them grow as they got ready to go into this promised land. But their mind was stuck on the old things. And I want to tell you like this, don't let your mind get stuck on that, because I don't care if it's your job. How you gonna go to the next job with a different mindset if when you got the mindset of, oh, I'm tired of this place and this getting on my nerves, well, what you think gonna happen when the next job come along? You're gonna do the same old thing, and it's gonna be the same old thing, and same old thing. But you have to grow to get through the circumstance. You have to be able to go through the circumstance to grow through the circumstance. Look at that. So verse 17, once again in 1 Thessalonians chapter 5, pray without ceasing, and everything give thanks, for this is the will of Yahuwah. Listen to this, and Mashiach Yahusha concerning you. Concerning you. So that's why he said, give thanks in everything. Don't murmur. Don't murmur. Don't complain. Don't hold grudges, because they only cause us to get further and further away from being able to walk properly with God. You want to have that pure heart. You want to be able to pray fervently, so when you pray, Yahuwah will hear you. But without a pure heart, it's hard to be heard. I ain't saying that Yahuwah won't hear you, but what I'm saying is when you holding grudges and you having that nature of sin starting to live in you, then it's hard for you to be able to have that access that you should have to the throne room. Yes, you can pray, you can go to him, but you have to realize this. Some things, he said he give grace to the humble, but he resists the proud. And so when we start trying to do this on our own, when we start trying to attack back or get revenge or talk against that person or do this or do that, we're trying to do what's within our power and not what's within his power. And so therefore now pride will begin to creep in. So we have to be careful, because that spirit of Leviathan knows how to creep in. We have to be careful because that seductress Jezebel, she knows how to creep in. We have to be careful, because now you also don't want that spirit of Pharisee, that hypocrite, because you do one thing, but then you, for instance, I just come on here as if ain't nothing going on, and everything, it looked like everything good, and then away from the camera, oh, this and that get on my nerves, and I'm so tired of this person. I can't do that. I couldn't do that to y'all. Why? Because I want to be honest. Listen, if if I'm not gonna be honest with others, I'm not honest with myself. So that's how you deceive others while deceiving yourself, right? Because the easiest person that I want to tell you that is easy to be dishonest with is yourself. Why? Because you can bury that thing and try to make it seem like, and you'll make yourself start believing that it's true, that you ain't like that. But I want to tell you something. Don't allow yourself to ever think that you're better than what you are just because you're a child of Yah. You need to go to Yah. And if you have brothers or sisters in the walk that you trust and you can rely on that ain't gonna get your business out there, you need to be able to go to them too and ask them to pray with you. So in closing, the train came into the station. I just want to say I love y'all so much. And anybody out there that is going through this type of situation, because it is so easy to go through it, hey, pray fervently. Go to the Father. Seek His face. Seek His face. Earlier when I was saying that He ain't gonna hear you, I'm saying when you call on Him when you call on Him for certain things, like how can I put it? I don't know. It's more of when you want the situation just to be gone, just because you don't want to go through it. It don't work like that. He put you in that situation so that He could see your growth. And if you're not willing to go through it, then how can He use you, right? And so it's like He can't give you any more talents or any more coins if you're gonna just keep hiding it in a napkin because you don't want to go through it. And so you have to be careful with that type of thing. You know, we really all have to be careful with that. And so because I'm be honest with you, there's certain things that I was praying about, and I had to realize, oh man, you know what? Because I'm not coming to Him with a pure heart, that I'm not being answered. Because a lot of times he won't answer you until you get yourself correct. And you ask, oh, can I get confirmation on this? And sometimes he'll reveal this to you. Hey, this is what you got going on. You need to clear that up if you really want to go into this with me. So just telling you, as we go through certain situations, next week we'll talk about disputings. It'll still be the same title, Do All Things Without Murmuring and Disputing, but we'll talk about disputings next week. So give a praise offering real quick. Hallelujah. Glory be to y'all. We thank you and we love you. And then give that praise offering. And then I ask that if you haven't given your life to Him, give it to Him. Today is the most important. Y'all, she truly loves you. And then in closing, don't forget to say, thank you, Yahusha. I love you. Yahuwah loves you. Don't forget to say, thank you, Yahusha. Talk to y'all soon.
Torah, Amet. Torah, Amet. Tudaya.
This is a Cinema Beats production.
Now I can sit here and pray about things I really don't need. And I can sit here and complain about things that hold no meaning to you, Abba. Cinema. You're all I need to get by. You're all scratch my head.